There was a note inside the canteen lid. Lee Sang-jin stopped. His father's old military canteen. Metal surface dark with grime. Scratched in several places. One section patched with rust. He had found it on the top shelf of his father's wardrobe. Wrapped in a piece of old cloth. He unscrewed the lid. On the inside of the lid, something had been taped. Old tape, brown and hard. He carefully peeled it away. A thin piece of paper, folded. He brought it close to the candle flame. His father's handwriting, pen pressed firmly into the paper. Faded but readable. Yeong-min. The village by the border. Near the Tumen River. Return this canteen. It belongs to this person. This is something I was not able to do. A name Sang-jin had never once heard. Yeong-min. Not from his father. Not in 24 years of living together. His father had died 28 days ago. Before dawn, he had come into the hallway to find him on the wooden floor. His heart had been weak for years. The night before had given nothing away. Dinner, television, the usual cough, bed. Nothing more. The funeral had passed. His older brother came from far away and left after 3 days. Sang-jin remained alone. His mother had died when he was 14. After that, he and his father had lived in this house together for 24 years. One person left now. He had not been able to move a single thing from his father's room. For more than 20 days he had put off sorting. Today he had forced himself in. Wardrobe first, old clothes one by one. And then at the top, wrapped in cloth, the canteen. His father had been a quiet man. Not warm, but not frightening. Simply still. He swept the yard. He took short walks. He set dinner on the table each evening. They ate. They watched television. They said very little. For 24 years, Sang-jin had never once asked what his father was thinking or carrying. His father had never offered. That was how this house had worked. And this canteen had been on the top shelf the whole time, with another man's name hidden inside the lid. The next morning he went to find his father's oldest acquaintance in the village, a man named Pak Chol-soo, in his mid-70s, who had known his father since they were young. He found him trimming branches in his yard. He showed him the canteen and mentioned the name Yeong-min. Near the Tumen River, Pak Chol-soo held the canteen and turned it over slowly. Then he said, "I only vaguely remember this. Your father had some kind of incident around the Tumen River when he was young. During his military service years. He never spoke about it directly. Not once. I did not know the name Yeong-min was involved." 3 days later Sang-jin boarded an early bus heading north. More than 3 hours. A village near the border. Somewhere he had never been. Wind off the river. Cold even in April. The river wind here was different. It carried the smell of old water. A small quiet village. He asked at a shop near the station if anyone knew Yeong-min. The woman there thought briefly and nodded. "He has been here a long time. Lives at the end of the alley near the river." He walked the alley. Gray walls. Cold wind. The sound of the Tumen River reached him from somewhere ahead. Low and continuous. Still carrying winter in its voice. He found the house. He knocked. Slow, heavy footsteps inside. The door opened. A man in his early 70s. Hair almost entirely white. Thin face. High cheekbones. Deep, quiet eyes. A worn coat with both hands in the pockets. He looked at Sang-jin without speaking. Sang-jin said, "My name is Lee Sang-jin. I am the son of Lee Dong-hyuk. My father died 28 days ago. I found this while sorting through his belongings." He held out the canteen. The man's face changed. His eyes narrowed. They fixed on the canteen. He reached out and took it. Stopped. He stood with the canteen resting in his open palm. He ran his fingers slowly over the surface. The scratches. The rust. The dents. He looked at it for a long time. He unscrewed the lid. The tape marks were visible inside. The empty space where the note had been. His lips moved slightly without sound. Something moved in his eyes. Old and deep. He exhaled, long and slow. He said, "Dong-hyuk has gone." "Come in." They sat across a small worn wooden table. On the wall hung an old photograph. Young men in military clothes. Winter. A frozen river behind them. The Tumen. The man sat down and held the canteen between his hands. Sang-jin placed the note on the table. Yeong-min picked it up. "Read it." "Set it down." He was quiet for a long time. River wind pressed at the window. Water dripped from the eave. Then he began. 30 years ago. Winter. Your father and I were both serving near the Tumen at that time. Different units, but by chance we ended up near the same section of the river on the same day. I had to cross alone. The ice was only half formed. I walked out. Midway across, the ice split. The sound was sharp. I was in the water immediately. Tumen River water in winter. I could not breathe before I felt the cold. Then I heard someone running on the ice above me. Your father. He had grabbed a wooden pole from the riverbank and was running toward me. He stretched it down. He told me to hold on. I held on. He pulled me out. I was alive. Sang-jin's hands went still on the table. He continued as he pulled me up. This canteen came loose from my coat and fell into the water. It washed to the bank. Your father picked it up. He tried to return it to me then and there. But people came running from both directions. There was confusion. I was surrounded and carried away from the river. Your father was pushed to the edge of the crowd with the canteen still in his hand. We had not exchanged names. By the time I recovered, he was already gone. I never clearly saw his face. Sang-jin's breath was short. He went on. I tried to find him afterward. I did not know his name. I had not seen him properly. Those were difficult years to search for anyone. I simply wanted to say thank you. That was all I wanted. This canteen came from my own father. I had carried it since my service days. Losing it was nothing compared to losing the chance to say thank you to the man who pulled me out. Sang-jin said, my father tried to find you too. He kept the canteen on his wardrobe shelf for 30 years. He wrote your name inside the lid and left a note asking me to return it. He never once spoke about any of this. Not in 24 years of living together. Yeong-min looked at the canteen for a long time. He said, I understand now what kind of man Dong-hyuk was. The man who saved my life that day. He kept this for 30 years without saying a word. No name, no recognition. He just kept it on a shelf. Sang-jin said, I will say what my father could not say. He was sorry it took so long. And he carried the thought of you all those years. The canteen on the shelf was his way of saying what he could not say out loud. That was his way of doing things. Yeong-min looked at Sang-jin for a long time. Something old moved through his eyes. Then slowly he said, you have Dong-hyuk's eyes. Would you have asked your father's rescuer first about that day 30 years ago? Or would you have simply sat across from him and let the silence carry everything? Yeong-min pushed the canteen across the table towards Sang-jin. Sang-jin asked, you are not keeping it? He said, Dong-hyuk kept it for 30 years. It belongs with his son. He wrote the note in your name. That tells me where it should go. Sang-jin took it with both hands. Light, cold at first, warm quickly. He turned the lid open one more time. The tape marks were still there. The note was gone, now on the table. The inside of the canteen was empty. On the bus home he held the canteen and watched the window. Patches of snow still in the low fields. Water dripping from every eave. Spring arriving slowly. Not fully here yet, but arriving. He had his father's canteen in his hands. 30 years on a shelf. Today delivered to its owner. His father had not been able to do it. Today Sang-jin had. 30 years late, but today it had arrived. His father had been a quiet man, but not a man who let things go. He had kept a stranger's canteen on a shelf for 30 years. Wrapped in cloth, with a note inside the lid and his son's name attached to the task. That was who his father had been. Sang-jin had learned one part of that today. Perhaps too late, but today was enough. What is carried in silence is not always lost. Sometimes it waits inside an old canteen lid for 30 years, waiting for the day someone finally unscrews it. If this story stayed with you, the next one begins here too.